Okay, we're calling to order. Hello. You ready? Okay, welcome to the September 17th meeting of Manhattan Community Board 5, Land Use Housing and Zoning Committee. I'm Nancy Gosho, chair of this committee, joined by our vice chair, Julie Chu, and committee members who are going to go around the room and introduce themselves, starting with Seth Borden.
Alan Yu, Zul Zolkowitz, David Sigmund,
Libby Hutton.
Yaron Nodi Victor.
Great, okay, so that's everybody. Anyone online?
No, we don't have members.
No one online,
No.
okay. So, any items voted on at this meeting will be voted on by the full board at our Thursday, October 9th, full board meeting. Before we start our agenda, do any members of the public or committee members have any new business items? Charles, has raised his hand. Charles? Someone needs to.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
I was wondering if any visual graphics can be described by the applicants or presenters if possible. Thank you.
okay. That ends the new business. The meeting will run in this order. After each presentation, committee members will ask questions. Then we'll take questions and comments from the public. While there's no time limit on comments, we ask that you speak succinctly and avoid repetition of a prior speaker. Please use the raise hand function. Julie will call on you. After public questions and comments, we will go into business session where only committee members and board members can participate in the discussion. There will be no further input from the public unless recognized by the chair. Board members that are online will be promoted to panelists for the business session if any show up. Finally, I will call for a motion, a second, and take a vote. After the last agenda item, we'll adjourn the meeting. So we have 4 items on our agenda tonight with 3 draft resolutions to vote on. Presenters, public attendees, and committee members, in the interest of time, let's aim for no more than 30 minutes per agenda item. So the 4 items are a POPS application for 1325 Avenue of the Americas, led by Alan Yu, a presentation by the Fund for the City of New York Fellow, Isabel Jordan, a discussion of the Manhattan Plan by Julie Chu, and a discussion of city charter revision referendum by Yaron Nodi Victor. So let's start with our first agenda item. This is an application from 1325 Avenue of the Americas to amend zoning text and facilitate private cafe use within the through block Galleria POPS. Our lead member is Alan Yu. This is a ULURP application because the amendment seeks to allow open air cafes, eating and drinking service in through block Galleria POPS, and then facilitate 3 of the ground floor of 1325 of the 1325 Avenue of the Americas. All the committee members were emailed the 1325 Avenue of the Americas application documents posted by DCP and a link to learn all about ULURP. So I'm hoping everyone understands everything about ULURP, which stands for, who knows what ULURP stands for?
Land use.
Thank you. Okay, Alan, you have anything to say before we start?
No.
Okay, so let's start with the applicant.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm going to share my screen. And just confirming everyone sees the screen.
Yep.
Great.
And will you introduce yourself, sir?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Will you introduce yourself?
Oh, yes, of course.
Neil.
Hi, so my name is Neil Weisbart. I'm from the law firm of Seyfarth Shaw, and I appear before you on behalf of La Grande Boucherie, which who operates a restaurant at 1325 Avenue of the Americas. The site is located between 6th and 7th Avenue, which is known as 6.5 Avenue, between West 53rd Street and West 54th Street. The Galleria was constructed as part of a bonus, excuse me, the building where the Galleria sits was constructed pursuant to a bonus by providing a through-block Galleria, and this was done in 1990. The site is improved with a 35-story office building, and the through-block Galleria is located in the base of the building. However, in April of 1996, City Planning Commission approved a text amendment that removed the bonuses for through-block Gallerias. And that's one of the driving forces behind this text amendment. Currently, the zoning resolution does not have a provision that allows open-air cafes within through-block Gallerias. And when we met, we've been working on this for some time. And when we met with City Planning back in 2019 originally, they recommended a text amendment that would allow open-air cafes within a through-block Gallerias, because technically through-block Gallerias are not open to the sky. If the text amendment is adopted concurrently with the text amendment, La Grande Bougerie will be seeking a certification from City Planning to allow the open-air cafe. And as your committee probably knows, whenever there is a open-air cafe within a privately owned public space, a POPS, a certification from the chair of City Planning is required. If the text amendment is approved, besides the subject Galleria at 1325 Avenue of the Americas, there's two other sites that would be eligible for certifications. However, they would have to go through a separate certification process. So the current application is only for a certification for the Galleria at 1325 Avenue of the Americas. Here's just a proposed plan of the Galleria and the outdoor seating. The open-air cafe will be comprised of approximately 1,077 square feet.
Neil, can we interrupt you for 1 second?
Sure.
We have a request from a
Member public.
a public attendee who would like the slides described as best you can describe them. He is unable to see the slides and has requested that.
Oh, okay. So I'll go back
Thank
a
you.
couple slides, and this is the first slide, and this just
Thank you.
shows the site on a tax map, and it has a summary of the text that I just discussed. The next slide is just text and talks about the two other through-block Gallerias and the purpose of the text amendment. The slide that I'm currently on is a floor plan, and just so everyone knows, these documents are all available on City Planning's website. So after this presentation, if you want to look at the floor plans, those can be found on City Planning's website. And if someone wants to email me, I'd be happy to send them the set of plans that have been filed. This is all public information at this point. So the slide that I'm on right now with the floor plan shows the layout of the proposed cafe. It will contain a total of 57 tables and 114 chairs, most of them adjacent to La Grande Bougerie, but there are also 5 tables and 10 chairs requested adjacent to the Kaiseki Room restaurant, which is also located in the through-block Galleria. This next slide shows a photograph of the outdoor cafe and explains that this application also seeks a modification to the original certification. So any design changes as part of a previously approved privately owned public space requires a certification for modifications. And so this is all running concurrently with the text amendment and the other certification. And as part of the open air cafe approval, there are significant improvements to the space. And I hope some of you have been there and seen how beautiful the space is. And as some of the improvements include movable planters, new benches, new trash receptacles, movable heat lamps so the space can stay warm in the winter, and new beautiful decorative pavement treatments at the subfloor, and decorative entry paneling at adjacent to the restaurant and also at the entrances of the Galleria. The next slide shows a before picture on the left, before La Grande Bougerie spent over $2 million for improvements to this space. And before La Grande Bougerie occupied the space, this through block Galleria was very underutilized, and now it is extremely active, a beautiful space, as you can see, beautiful lighting, beautiful pavers, beautiful trees in the planters, and all the decorative paneling. So it's a huge improvement. And as you walk south through 6.5 Avenue, there's just an extreme difference between this site and the other Galleria spaces. The next slide is just in detail describing what the text amendment will be comprised of. And basically, it states that open air cafes can be located in through block gallerias. So the lines that are underlined are the new text. And so the text now will allow a open air cafe in a through block galleria, which currently is not allowed under the zoning resolution. And it also asks for that it clarifies that these cafes don't need to be open to the sky, and that movable planters or barriers are permitted, provided that the planters don't exceed 3 feet in height or a depth of 12 inches. As I mentioned, once the text amendment is approved, the applicant can apply for a certification, which was being done. It will be done concurrently with this application, and there's certain findings to the certification, which is pursuant to section 3773 of the zoning resolution. Just a few findings here. One, that the use will promote public use and enjoyment of the publicly accessible open area. And that has occurred by the beautification that's been done, and it's revitalized this through block galleria and become a valuable amenity to the residents and the workforce and visitors of New York City. Also, such use complements the desirable uses in the surrounding area. The surrounding area is improved primarily with office and mixed-use buildings, and by revitalizing the through block galleria with highly aesthetic and user-friendly amenities, the open air cafe complements the surrounding area. And then finally, such use does not adversely impact visual and physical access to and throughout the publicly accessible open area. The open air cafe will be constructed in accordance with the requirements of the zoning resolution. And one of them is that the cafe cannot occupy more than 20% of the total through block galleria. And we've worked hard with city planning to make sure that we comply with that. It will also be located at the edge of the through block galleria, adjacent to La Grande Bougerie, and will provide the minimum clearances of 15 feet throughout. And that's my presentation, and I'm here to answer any questions, as is Brooke Shafran. And anything that we can't respond to tonight, we'll get back to you as soon as possible in writing if needed.
Okay, thank you very much. Alan, before you start, when was this application certified by DCP?
On Monday. And it's actually not certified. It's referred out to the community board. Text amendments are a little bit different than special permits and rezonings.
Okay, and I guess the second question is, what time does it open and what time does it close?
That's a good question, and I'm glad we have the owner, the manager of the restaurant, Jasmine Polomek. Can he raise his hand and join, or how does that work? Or I can text him.
We'll promote them. There we go. Jasmine, can you hear us?
Hello,
There you go.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
I was going to try to answer that, but please, Jasmine,
Okay,
You're-
so
Sorry, bro.
so we are open from 8 a.m. We have breakfast until 11. From 11, it's lunch. So we are open actually from 8 a.m. until 11 p.m. during the week, and midnight Friday and Saturday.
Okay, so there are gates that are closed when you're not open and there's no access through the 6.5 Avenue passageway. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, but that was also the case when we were not operating there. That's done by the Paramount Group, the building. And before we opened there, they were closing the gates at 8 p.m., as I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to turn it over to questions by Alan Yu, who is our lead committee member on this application. Alan, please.
Those were actually my two main questions. So I noticed in the zoning text, the existing zoning text for 81-231, that part C, the nighttime closing of an existing, well, in the existing text, it would be referring to plazas or public amenities, which would make sense as comps, but with this Galleria being a thoroughfare in a way through law, I guess, would there be any consideration for having that open even after the dining establishments are closed?
So the POPs hours themselves, as described in the original certification prior to Le Grand Boucherie's opening, are much shorter than the restaurant's hours. So the utilization of the passageway is in fact increased by the fact that the restaurant is open. They open the gates in the morning, right? They open for breakfast at 8, so they're open even sooner than that. Right, staff does not use the gate entrances, but the gates are open earlier and they then close later. There is security provided by the building, but if you've been in any of the other passageways, you'll notice that even, you know, if there's security, they're gray and don't particularly feel well lit or safe. The restaurant keeps it quite active and activated until late in the evening, and then the gates are appropriately closed overnight.
Alan, any more questions?
No, we'll open up to the committee.
Okay, any questions from the committee? Zool,
The inevitable public restroom question.
explain
People
to us
already
what you
use the
asked.
public restrooms, excuse me, the private restrooms, but people often come in and use the restrooms, and they are open to the public, and they will still be open to the public. The restaurant is happy to let people come in and use them as they are walking through.
So let us be clear on this. So you're saying that the restaurant during working hours will allow access to the restrooms by all the public, whether they are customers or not?
Correct.
Thank you.
Brooke, just to follow up on that, can signage be provided for the bathrooms so that people know that it's accessible to the public without purchase?
I think that's certainly something that we can ask about. Obviously, putting up a sign in the POPs, right, as we're talking about modifications, those things all have to be approved. But we can certainly discuss the signage.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Alan?
Oh, sorry. The new text amendment being proposed in, again, 81-231 under subheading B2, that plants or barriers shall be removed from the through block galleria when the open cafe is not in active use. In the instance of this application, the open air cafe, Le Grand Boucherie, the operating hours exceeds when the Galleria would normally be open otherwise, right? The POPs hours.
Correct. And what would that be? So typically, the requirement is that the space be open for, I believe it's 225 days minimum per year. La Grande Boucherie operates all year round. So that's why these planters or barriers to be removed wouldn't apply in the instant application.
The idea is that they're movable if the restaurant presumably were to be closed for business, whether that's for a day or forever. But as Neil said, since it's 365 days, they can stay, but if they needed to be moved, they certainly can be. And you know, all of the necessary clearances to have room for pedestrians to use the space and public seating. There's more than enough space in the width of the passage.
Great, thank you.
Libby?
Okay, so forgive me, I'm just trying to catch up here a little bit. I'm not as familiar with this particular gallery. I just want to make sure that I'm looking at the original APOPS, like MAS requirements, the required amenities from the Galleria. And I've got a question about the seating, where the original seating has like fixed seating if required, and if including, 14 benches totaling 125 feet or linear feet and 56 movable chairs totaling 84, if it's provided in tables, 14 tables. So that's all publicly accessible without the requirement to purchase anything. Is this to have that seating not be public anymore?
No, the public seating will remain exactly as it was approved. That is a stringent requirement from city planning. So the floor area bonus was based on a public Galleria space so the public could enjoy tables and chairs. And that original approval from 1990 required a certain amount of tables and chairs, and those will be maintained.
Is that going to be made clear that it's?
I'm going to open up
that
the
this-
floor plan too, just so you can see.
Actually, I was going to say, Neil, if you could open up just to one of the images. It's not a total wide shot, but
Well, first, let me show the floor plan. So everything on the bottom of the floor plan is for the public. And the restaurant won't be servicing those tables. So anyone who comes in can sit in any of those tables and chairs. And there's also benches along the walls that they can sit in as well. And all of these tables and chairs and benches that are shown were part of the original approval from 1990, and they will remain. But La Grande Boucherie has actually replaced these and upgraded these tables and chairs. So you can see them on the right side for what Brooke was getting at. These are all for the public. And there's benches back there as well.
Libby, does that cover you?
Mostly.
Okay, you're on.
Can you just go back to the
David.
floor? Can you just go back to the floor plan for 1 second? Sorry.
No problem.
And just out of curiosity, my question is, if you take into account the restaurant seating plus planters, just at its narrowest point, how wide is the public thoroughfare part remaining?
It has to be maintained at a minimum of 15 feet clear path.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
David,
So just for clarification, the picture that you showed before with tables and chairs, so those were provided by the restaurant operator, but they weren't providing service to those tables. They were just publicly available tables.
Yes, La Grande Boucherie just upgraded the entire Galleria, even parts that weren't part of, that aren't going to be part of the restaurant.
Okay, and then I found some old pictures, I guess, was Restaurant Remy, was that in this space years ago? I thought I found pictures of another restaurant that was operating in this space a while ago.
So this picture that on the screen right now, that is not La Grande Boucherie. That's before. So it could have been Remy. I'm not sure, but yes, there was a restaurant there.
So, well, I mean, the picture I have shows tables and chairs and umbrellas and plants and.
Yeah, that wasn't permitted. They should have gone to city planning as well.
Okay. That's my
didn't
question.
have
Okay.
any other questions from the committee?
Oh, I'm sorry, just one.
Oh, go ahead,
comment.
David.
So, your application refers to the 2 other locations that could then apply for certification if this passes. But so are there other restaurants that are operating, I guess, illegally in some of the other through block passages or no?
I don't believe so.
No, they're
How
empty
do you-
passageways that are just, they're walkways. But the text being changed to allow for cafes that would not be open to the sky would allow for these spaces to be utilized. But again, as Neil had pointed out, the text amendment is the permission to apply. And then, there would have to be individual applications for essentially certifications to update the use of those spaces that would have to apply individually to you, whether that was, Le Grand Boucherie trying to extend, service across the street, or a different application from somebody else. But those are just walkways right now, where sometimes people sleep, so it's not quite as lovely. And I feel bad for those people as well, but it's a very different, it's just a passage.
Okay, thanks.
Julie?
So, Brooke, can you advise when you can get back to us about the bathroom access and putting it on, including it in on signage? Because I think full board is October 9th.
We will,
you think
we
you'll
will
be
certainly
like-
get back to you before then. I don't, Neil and I will talk about that. We'll talk about if that needs, something official from city planning as an amendment, or if that's something we can just put up.
Can you show us on the plan where the access to the bathrooms are on the passageway?
So the restrooms themselves are inside the restaurant, so you have to go into the restaurant area.
Okay.
Right
So
here.
that's the entrance, the main entrance, and then the restrooms are top left corner.
Okay. Okay. So there would need to be signage for us to really approve this. Is that right?
Yeah, because people aren't gonna be.
Yeah, because people aren't gonna be able to tell where those are.
Yeah.
This is a question. Okay,
My understanding from staff is, people, there's a lot of coming and going, a lot of people who sort of know they're there will just walk in. Otherwise, people will say, may I use your restroom? And the answer is always yes. But certainly I understand wanting to make that even easier for people, and we can talk about that and make sure to get back to Marissa and Isabel with that information in advance of the full board.
our concern is tourists who are new to the environment, but we want to be open and welcoming to them and all of our pops. Okay, Alan, and Ankur.
Just on the comment you made about our resolution being contingent on them posting signage, I think before we do that, we should check with the law department. We're a government agency and we're trying to compel a private actor to say something. And normally the government can't compel speech. Now, there are many exceptions. This is a complex issue, but I think it's fantastic. If they voluntarily want to do that, that's great. But the condition approval on speech that we'd like them to make seems strange to me. And I don't think we should do that without knowing if that's right.
We're advisory only. We can't compel anything.
You are saying our resolution would be premised on having them put up a sign. I don't think we should make a resolution that says you have to say something.
We're in questions right now. Ankur, we're in questions, okay? I was just trying to tell them the seriousness of why this is important, why we want them to get back to us. That's what we were talking about, okay? Anyone else have questions? Okay, let's go to the public. Are there any comments or questions from the public? Please raise your hand. Charles?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to, as a member of the public, just thank the applicant for being such a good steward of the space, upgrading areas that are not even part of the restaurant, and providing public access to the bathroom. Thank you.
On behalf of the restaurant, thank you.
Any other comments, questions from the public? Seeing none, we will go into business session. Okay, so comments. Done the questions. So now, you listened and we talked. Any applicants?
So I used 6.5 you quite recently, and I know exactly what this is. And in various parts of the day, it doesn't actually feel very narrow. between the edge of the planters and the other side. And so it seems to be a very good activation of the space. When you do walk along 6.5 Avenue, different buildings have treated that corridor differently. And I think it would be an amenity, but I do think that this would be the time at which we could talk about the bathroom access signage question, and I think that it is important because the developer got a bonus for this POPs, and as part of that, there are amenities that are provided to the public that should be advertised so people know about it.
You're on.
I agree with Alan, and I'm comfortable with the limited nature of the amendment. If I'm reading it correctly, it's for already existing through Galleria, so it's not like it changes the bonus of future, developments, obviously, and there's only 2 other sites that they would still have to apply, so it's not like it changes some dramatic precedent, and so I think I'm comfortable with that, and for all the reasons Alan said, it seems like a good activation of the space.
Libby,
Just a comment on signage, when pops are created in general, the APOPs thing, it says like signs aren't required, so I think that especially with our increased bathroom usage and signage has been updated for what it has to look like and when it's there. I think that because it's an amendment, it seems reasonable, since it would apply to these more than just the one, to request that if the other ones apply too, they would also have to have additional signage about bathroom access.
Well, sorry, are you saying that you want it written into the amendment? That's different.
Or that like us requesting it doesn't seem out of line with things that the city
I
has
see.
already
Okay.
requested as far as signs go. It
Yeah.
doesn't seem that extreme to ask them to
Got it.
do that.
any other comments from the committee? Ankur?
Would folks be okay with it saying, to the extent permitted by law, we would consider adding some? That we won't have to ask them.
Alan, you're drafting the resolution. So, when we're done with comments, why don't you read off the things we've agreed on that will go into the resolution? Okay, so if that goes into the resolution, then that's what we'll vote on. So you're the lead committee member here.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a good point for us to discuss whether we.
So to me personally, I don't particularly need them to change their signage because I think, as they noted, people are using the bathroom and they've gone above a lot of our applicants and they have their bathrooms open. But if it's permitted, to the extent permitted, if they're gonna require that, that's fine. But I don't think you need that. I think they've done what we always ask them to do, which is to have public access bathrooms.
Okay, so let's take.
I guess, as somebody who uses that space regularly, like, I never knew that they were there, or there were. I don't know, I was, I mean, I know legally, but it never occurred to me to actually broach that topic, yes.
I'm sorry.
Let's hear Zool.
Like in so many places where the private or public restrooms are usually off somewhere, and there's a sign that lets people know that the restrooms are. Let's encourage them to have signage to let people know that there are public restrooms. Or rather, that, and so kindly, that they are making their private restroom available to the public. So a sign would be very helpful for the public to know that.
You're on.
I think a public amenity is only public if people know that it's public. And so I think it's not compelled speech in my mind. I think I'm comfortable with saying, and the applicant seems amenable to it. So I'm comfortable with saying that that's something that we would like. I think it's a reasonable thing.
Michael.
The applicant is asking for a text amendment change that will apply to other locations, so we should make it clear that the future applicants will be held to the same standard, so I think there should be across the board. I'd be happy with not being written into the text amendment. It just, this is our request to all applicants as a community board.
Any other comments? Yes,
Is
Chris.
there a issue though with what like your point is putting to the extent legally like permissible because like technically all our things should be legally permissible. So I just don't see any downside of putting that. But again, I don't see why it wouldn't be legally permissible. That's kind of my like to echo everyone else, it seems reasonable to put it, but also I don't see a big deal in putting that. But maybe you feel differently.
It's the other way, but I totally get that, sorry.
Go ahead.
I totally get that point, but. That
Talk about
it's
precedent.
but we're never asking anyone to ever do anything illegal.
Yeah.
So like.
That's what I'm saying.
You know, like,
It
what's that
seems like a-
caveat mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's just, I don't want it to put that caveat in implies that on other occasions, we are asking them to do things, you know what I mean? It's like, of
Well,
course,
that's
it's to the
sorry.
extent of the law.
Just see, it seems like it's applicable to
Yeah.
everything is within the reasonable legal confines.
Right.
So that's why I'm like, that actually should be implied in everything we do, but
Yeah.
I just don't see it. Yeah, I don't see a big deal whether or not.
I understand that, if that's
Any-
what we
any
need
o-
to get. to.
Any other comments before we go back to Alan, who's gonna summarize what we're gonna put in this resolution? So that we all know what it is that we're voting on. Any other comments? Ankur?
Alternatively, if it was something that they're strongly encouraged to add signage, that works for me too. And it sounds like that's in the spirit of what everyone wants.
Okay, Alan, do you want to tell us make a motion on what your draft resolution would sound like?
Sure. And obviously, so, but I think the first whereas clause would, first I will make a motion to, I guess, whereas the applicant agrees to put up appropriate signage around bathroom access and seating and table access that are not part of the cafe without the requirement to purchase anything. Whereas this applies only to existing through block gallerias. Potentially, and whereas this only applies to the 3 total potential sites. And whereas open air cafes would still have to apply for certification. Be it resolved that the, let's see if I remember on this. Sorry, text amendment.
So let's.
Feel free to add.
Okay, a second, someone have a second on that?
Second,
Okay. Do anything else we're gonna add to that before we vote? Any further discussion? No? Okay, then let's take it to a vote. All in favor of this reso?
I should have.
I'm going to go through the list.
Oh, right, that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
Julie,
Seth,
take the vote.
I'm a yes. Ankur,
I think you said that they have agreed to post the signage. Is it how you described the first whereas part? Yeah, so, no.
Kevin is, Nancy,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Tristan,
Yes.
Libby,
Yes.
you're on,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
and Chris.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so it passes. What's the total vote?
Sorry, I'm just, sorry, I'm adding it up here. 11 yay, 1 nay.
Okay, now, thank you very much for your presentation,
Thank you.
and
You.
now we go to,
I can share screens for the, so is Isabel presenting first, or should I talk about that?
whichever works better for you.
Cause I was thinking, since she's presenting on housing, some things might be helpful to.
Oh.
Yeah, so
Do you want to do you want to say what's to come? I think maybe you should say what's to come as the third item, so that people listen to her presentation in a certain way.
yeah, so Isabel's gonna present her research from the FCNY fellowship. on housing. She's done a lot of detailed research and hopefully from her presentation, we can include some items for the Manhattan plan that we're gonna review for the third item.
So, and DCP is listening. Dylan
be built. Now, this is showing where vacancies are happening in our district. Unlike the previous map, the colors, the darkness is very different in this map. So this is not just showing a map of where housing is, which is showing that there is a disproportionate amount of rental vacancies roughly corresponding to the 50s in between 5th and 6th Avenues. So that's something to note. Okay, I'm gonna try to go a little faster, sorry. So now we're gonna look a little bit more discreetly by building. And I have an MSMX overlay as well. Of course, for those familiar with the build floor area ratios across the district, which is what there are maps of on the screen. The southern half of our district is much less dense. David, do you remember the average FARs for each quadrant?
Yeah,
Come on.
somewhere between 8 and 10.
Here we have a map of residential building age. So the darkest blue navy color is contemporary residential builds from 1991 onwards. So you can see south of 34th Street is where a lot of those builds are happening. But only in the southwest quadrant is where they've been allowed, and that's because within the MSMX catchment area, and that's because it's zoned with inclusionary housing and 16D. Here's where our rent stabilized units are. The larger circles have maps, 2 maps with rent stabilized units shown through bubbles of different sizes. The larger bubbles have more units per building. Those are often supported housing buildings, mostly along 8th Avenue. One thing to know about the rent stabilized units in our district is that we are losing them rapidly. I have a chart here. This is from Bradlander showing the loss by borough of stabilized units since the mid-90s. Of course, Manhattan has a lot of dense housing and a lot of housing in the mid-20th century. So of course, there's going to be a loss if we're using a lot across the city, but it's still a major part of that loss. So you can see in the past 15 years, we've lost more than about 7,000 rent stabilized units. I showed some of our neighboring community boards to sort of compare to them. CB4 is actually gaining units, and the worst in Manhattan is CB8, which has lost 16,000 rent stabilized units. One thing to note is that these are not these are basically because small buildings are losing small numbers of rent stabilized units across the board. Even if large buildings are coming online with large numbers of stabilized units, it's not enough to offset the net loss that are leaching, as I call it, out of small buildings. So this is an overview of all the affordable development in our district since 2014. On the right, there's a map of 28th and 29th Street, which is the most dense cluster of affordable development in that time period. That is within that M16D zone that I mentioned in the Southwest District. 28th and 9th between what? 7th and 8th Avenue. So there's 2 charts here, a review of all projects by project type and affordable housing units by size. So 2 things to note here. One is that there's a very stark difference between new construction and preservation in terms of the units below 80% AMI, meaning affordable units, which is that new construction is not delivering deeply affordable units, and that both types are delivering smaller apartment sizes, which is something that I think the committee has talked about, but it's interesting to see by comparison. This is an example of one of those buildings, if you're interested in seeing what they look like. For example, this is 241 West 28th Street. It was financed using LHTC at 9%, 421A over 35 years of inclusionary housing. It finished construction in 2023. It delivered 480 total units across the building, of which 144 were affordable. at or below 80% AMI, 96 or below 80% AMI. So these are, those units delivered by AMI. You can see, like I said, preservation projects target particularly vulnerable populations. And I also noted to translate what these. These are the financing tools that were utilized by Frequency. So 421A offered tax benefits up to 35 years. Provided developers reserve 25 to 30% of the apartments for tenants earning up to 130% of AMI. So this program generated 78,000 units across the city, but cost the city an estimated 1.77 billion in foregone tax revenue, with minimal returns in deeply affordable housing. So Comptroller Brad Lander's office is called for redirecting these resources towards capital subsidy programs. And since that call, the program has been restructured. So across the city, the Independent Budget Office audit has found that directly subsidized units deliver that deeply affordable housing. A combination of inclusionary housing and subsidies works moderately well, and inclusionary housing works the least well. In my review of publicly owned sites, I found that it's very difficult to find an easy answer here because there's no nitro campuses for infill housing. There's no underutilized mid-block parks. Our parks properties are small and very important. And this is corroborated by conversations and reports put out by the borough president and DCP. So if there is no publicly owned space to increase housing stock, that is an incentive to upzone. That is the planning logic that underpinned MSMX. Maybe I'll go through this first. I was really surprised while I was going through this that the EDC owns so many buildings in Times Square along 42nd Street. Like, that genuinely surprised me. So I thought that only with conversion these would be feasible as housing options. Some of these are already skyscrapers. Some of them are quite short feeders that might be considered underdeveloped. And then during my research project, this project, which now we're all familiar with, 5 Times Square, was put forth to the State Planning Commission, which will add 1215 units of housing. And it's the city's second conversion through 467M. The last sort of thing we'll see from 421A was the 421A extension that will deliver 2 buildings, 244 West 49th Street, which will bring 138 units, and 989 6th Avenue, which will bring 284 units. Those will both be finished by 2031. And here's sort of a chart of all the units that our elected officials brought. Most of these are not in CD5, but you can still get a sense of where they are in the surrounding area and how bullish these electeds are or are not on housing. So prior to MSMX, projections for the district relied mostly on conversion. So here are some different projections put forth by different studies, which estimated that we bring up to 6,700 or up to 3,200 new units. But of course, MSMX exceeded that through conversion and new construction. In the pipeline, these are numbers that we have for sure. We'll have 43,000 units by the end of this year, and then these are new filings that were put forth. So adding those together, we'll have 47,000 units in the next 10 years. And this is sort of more speculative, using those 421A extension units, SMX, minus the city council amendment, plus 5 Times Square, plus something I just learned about, which is the Stewart Hotel is being converted into supportive housing. This is a rough, less sure estimate, but we might be, I really wanted to get to 60,000, but cranes didn't have enough to tell. But this is sort of where we're at. So what's in the news now is we have the city charter commission. And either way this goes, this committee is called for comprehensive neighborhood planning, which requires, more capacity at boards and likely more, interaction between community boards and the DCP through their DCP liaisons. After MSMX, it might be likely that DCP will move its focus to other parts of the boroughs with the Manhattan plan. Yet, it's important that we advocate anyway, and our discussion will talk about how we need to do that. Another part of City of Yes that is relevant to us is zoning section 75.42, which makes more flexible the transfer of development rights from landmark buildings to a wider area of receiving lots. And I think an important study might be how to maximize this in our district, since we have such a large number of landmark buildings compared to some other districts. And that is it.
Thank you very much. Very informative. Julie?
Any questions from the committee?
So much work went into this. You could see that. Terrific. So we're looking at, we're saying currently about 42,000 units and a projection in the future of 58,000.
So that was much more speculative. I can't say exactly when that would happen. That's including MSNX and lots of other things. But yeah, adding those all together, that could be a nice.
And when we talk about units, what exactly are we talking about?
Wait, sorry.
When we talk about units, what exactly are we talking about? We have tiny studios, we have
Yeah.
quadruplexes. Do
Putting
you have any idea? So it's just, is there, do you have any kind of breakdown of that? Any idea of what that might be?
No, I mean, a lot of the conversions that we've talked about, like I consider those are studios, and I know there's been discussion about, is that sort of the right type of unit that we want to see? But yeah, I think there's also the argument that a unit is a unit and that drops some money.
And you said you were surprised by the number of EDC owned buildings in the Times Square. Is that, were those formerly in REM properties? Is that how they ended up with EDC? Any idea?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Is there anyone?
One other question.
Okay,
These slides are gonna be on our website, or how are we gonna find them in the future? Okay.
would we like to put them on the website?
Yes.
Is that what we'd like to do? Yes, we're gonna put them on the website.
And send them to us.
Yeah, the
Okay.
So wanted to echo what Zul said. You did a fantastic job. I know it was just a tremendous amount of research and bringing it together in such a clear way. It's great and very hard. And a question about your slide about units from preservation versus new development. What did it mean when you said these were units that were preserved? What happened to preserve them?
So those are like units that are already existing. I mean, that's sort of the breakdown that's a language that is used. That's not my language, but those are units through supportive housing programs or other programs that already exist in the district, but say there might be some sort of renovation or something like that. So the units they're like open tickets, you might say, but they're being preserved.
They're usually units that may have been under some program that expired.
And so now they're.
And so then they re-up, and so they count as preservation.
And am I correct to conclude that because you had an earlier slide that showed the median rent in the district is actually quite affordable. It's like 2,000, but for newcomers, they can't get units at those prices. They have to get units at the 4,000 or 5,000. Is that in part because maybe some of these affordable ones that are preserved, there might already be people in them, or they're coming in from the program, they're not available.
Exactly. I mean, that's including units that might be SROs or stabilized units of a very long time ago, et cetera. So that's why that estimate is extremely conservative. It doesn't really reflect the reality of the situation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
You made such an interesting distinction between the ACS and the street easy rents, the increases in the home values. Let's see, but you also concluded, and if we can expand this, new construction is not delivering affordability? Did you expect?
Which slide? Is that this? Looks like this slide, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we could say that it is important to hit like middle or lower high income, brackets. Particularly in this district, but that's sort of what's been found is that those deeply affordable units are not being delivered, I think, just by the numbers. You look at the AMIs, that's sort of the big distinction between the two types of.
You also basically said directly subsidized housing delivers and the incentives don't.
For that type of thing, yeah.
While we're having this discussion, I believe that we could have a second phase, fund for the City of New York fellow to take this research and take it to another level. And so what I guess I would like is in your questions, can you propose some things that we should solidify, summarize, continue to do more research on, and then Isabel will write a proposal to the Fund for the City of New York, we can go into a second phase. So while you're asking these questions, think about that as a next phase, because I think while there's a lot of information here, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. She spent a long time on this, but you know, she's a limited amount of time to do that. So does anyone have any?
I was gonna ask, I mean, it's not quite related to what you said, but it is future facing. So if you were having done all this work, like, you know, if you were board or if you were in charge, let's say, in the timeline, what are the top opportunities in your mind in our district?
Like, so I think this landmark suitability, which means we're tolerant to a wider array is important.
Okay.
I think.
So investigating sort of what that would look like and
Yeah.
helping sort of there for people to be aware of that.
Yeah, transit oriented development, trying to maximize the biggest possibility.
No, I understand.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. When you said transit oriented?
Yeah, maximizing that as much as possible.
Yeah, okay. The airline thing is interesting. That is something that we bring up.
Angela, you're gonna talk about this too.
Just to follow up on that, wondering where else in the district can we create more housing? What's above MSMS to Central Park? Because you were saying for the Manhattan plan that DCP might focus elsewhere in our district, but it seems like our district has the potential for additional growth. And like one other question is, how do we compare to other districts in terms of development of units, density?
I'm doing this on.
I don't know if he has data from the top of his head, but.
Dylan, you have answers to any of these questions we're asking for DCP?
Not to put you on the spot, but she has.
Put you on the spot, bud.
She has to.
We're gonna promote your towns.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. I'll keep it short because I don't actually have real figures about it right now, but there is going to be more calls for ideas, and I know that we'll be looking to the community boards and especially CB5 to give some ideas on where you think housing could work in your district.
Okay, so we're working on that now, Dylan.
We're listening to us do that in real time.
Yeah.
We have already started the Google Doc and people have started putting ideas, and now Julie is going to share with us where we are and what we need to do. So we appreciate you being on with us tonight.
Of course, fantastic.
Alan.
One thing I would be interested in hearing more about in a potential phase 2 would be the intersectionality of demographics, unit type, and affordability in terms of whether or not we're delivering, like the units that are coming online, are they the right mix of types in terms of like number of bedrooms, but then also how does that map to affordability and also like the demographic household compositions of like families versus, you know, younger people, older people, et cetera.
I think that's interesting. I think I wonder if there might be like privacy issues with that, like getting just straight to the unit level of like.
Oh, we just meant generally, like census data, like we have we know like the age ranges of people in our district and like household composition, roughly like number of individuals in that household, right? And just like if, let's say hypothetically, we see that like the ACS over time has shown that there are more families in our district than there were before. But all the units coming online are studios, like that's would not necessarily be helpful for individuals wanting to stay in the community.
So Julie can go.
Michael, do you want?
Just, for the future, they could do more, research on the vacancy map about why units in different neighborhoods are more vacant than other neighborhoods. I don't know if it came up with that, be another project.
Augur?
Another idea for future research would be comparing sort of the rent increases in our city, as a function of like the percentage of new units we bring online versus our existing housing stock. Compared to other cities like Jersey City and New Rochelle or Austin, cities that have done significant new market rate housing construction and have shown on an inflation adjusted basis that rents are going down. So curious to see how that compares to us and what level of housing production do you actually need of market rate housing to actually start bringing rents down? On the inflation list.
Libby, did you have something to say?
No, I'm also curious about about like that sort of center block in the fifties, because it was both on units for sale and for rent. And especially with the Fifth Avenue redesign, I was wondering what's going on there, and is that gonna make it a more desirable place to be, or I would assume so, greenery tends to do that, but maybe less.
You're on, you want to say anything before Julie?
I was just gonna quickly say, I am also very interested in unit type questions. I mean, as I have 2 young children, I'm very aware of how difficult it is to find housing for that. I think what's complicated about it is it's like a build it there kind of thing. It's like, you know, there may not be families that desire to live in the northern part of our district because there are no parks and there are no programs. But like, you know, but you need, which comes first? In other words, so it's like Alan's like, we'll see if there are more families. There probably aren't, but that doesn't mean there wouldn't want to be in the future. So anyway, it's something to talk about.
So,
Yeah, just to Alan's point, to correlate with the census data could be very helpful. And Nancy, to yours, are you suggesting in this phase too that we're looking for more proposals of what is most likely to work?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
I mean, in this phase 2 investigation, we're looking more for recommendations on what works as opposed to what we're learning is not working.
That could be part of it as well. Would be an assessment of what's working and what's not working.
So the FCNY application is due this Friday, just to let you guys know. So if you want to follow up with Isabel, please do.
Do it before the end of tomorrow.
Yeah, so I'm gonna share my screen for this Google Doc, and feel free to add things that from Isabel's presentation. Let's see what this is. Sorry, this. Should I make it bigger?
Please.
Yeah. Okay, so just a couple intro sentences about that we submitted some recommendations from MSMX, and we have some additional recommendations. These are the 4 categories so far. Based on Tristan, Mike, and David's recommendations. As well as myself, but we can add more, you know, let's try to be efficient tonight, but. Just to go through this, unleashing supply is the first one. I think Isabel had some good things that we could take from Isabel's presentation, but the first one, David, I think this is yours. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, after MSMX, I was, yeah, and after we had heard about, you know, this Manhattan 100,000 goal, I looked around the map for like the low hanging fruit of, are there other M zones that this would apply to? And the kind of short answer was not quite. Like, these are zones that have, they were designed to preserve manufacturing space around the Union Square area. And so you can convert them to residential from non-residential floor area, but you need to preserve a certain amount of space for commercial or manufacturing uses. So the short answer on these was, well, why don't we get rid of that? And while we're at it, we could look at, some of them are like R8 equivalent. We could look at going to an R9 equivalent if we're looking for increased density, which, you know, it's also sort of a general tool. I know I think you get into this later in your document, but, you know, as a rule, there are other places where we could probably increase densities that are TOD, that are all those good things.
Yeah.
But anyway, these were the 2 specific areas, one of which I live in the middle of, that, you know, we could just get rid of the restriction and make it easier to convert these buildings to residential.
Do you want to say somewhere specifically that this could be this? Do you see it here that R8 could go to R?
Oh, yeah, I think they're both kind of R8 equivalent, so the decision would be to not just say take away the restriction, the use restriction, but also increase density from an R8 to an R9, and that would apply to both of these areas.
The second to last.
Yeah, I guess the question is why R9 and
Sort of the next one up.
that's, because I guess, you know, the 18 FAR that we've been looking at, why is it not applied elsewhere in our district and why just MSMX? You guys have,
Well, I think the MSMX was the first rezoning where it was available as a tool.
yeah,
I mean, in theory, it could be applied. There are other M zones, they're just not in our district. There are M zones in CB4 all the way on the west side. There's some stuff as you go down into the meat packing. So, I mean, theoretically, they could be applied in at least some of those areas. Mhm.
Blood in the streets.
Yeah.
okay. And then is this yours also, David? DCP's address missed opportunities, or is this yours, Mike?
I think it's mine.
This was the stuff that was out of scope. Remember, they
Yeah.
wanted higher and they were like, no, that's not.
Yeah, along Seventh Avenue.
Yeah.
Did you picked up the Sixth Avenue? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Jim Wright had that very specific diagram of what sites are available on Sixth Avenue. So, yep.
Yeah, so,
And Flatiron Nomad has a very extensive lot by lot map now.
okay, and then higher FARs elsewhere in our district, subject to making them affordable. Right? I think is what 1C is trying to say. Yeah, like apply MIH elsewhere in our district.
Yeah.
And then the transit oriented development that we just talked about. How do we determine FAR around our subway stations and so we're just asking them to fine tune that. I made it less specific.
All right.
Because talking to planners, there's a certain ratio you can do for radius and density, and they will figure that out. I think, instead of,
If they do something, that's better than nothing.
priority areas for resident or upzoning in our district. So these are some that Mike proposed, we can add to this list. Like what's going on above 46 to 59th Street? What's the FAR million? And can MIH be mapped up there?
Well, I didn't write this section, so I didn't know what.
I guess I'm asking
why
the
the
committee, is
restriction.
there any other areas that you could see upzoning? And I'm suggesting above,
Suggest the whole thing. Why not? I mean, we'll have to look at it, but why not?
do you have any objections to? So what do you think? 42nd Street and above, or how do I phrase this? Any suggestions?
42nd to 59th.
No.
All those vacant areas.
Yeah, all the vacant areas.
Whatever's going on there.
Why don't you lower your prices?
Well, I'm thinking some of them are vacant because they're not up to code, so once they, what's it pulled on the market.
Yeah, because I guess
There's a lot
a lot
that's
of
been
these,
lost market
like
because
31st
they're not up to
Street,
code,
36th
and landlords said they don't
Why-
have the money
The
to
buildings
make
are
the
low.
repairs to bring them up to code, so they're off the market.
You could
Aren't some
say
land leases
42nd
for
to
the sales?
59, or even you could say 31st to 59, including these particular areas that we have identified as being high potential. I would just put it that way.
that's really helpful. Do you have access to this doc?
Yes.
So you
want
can
me to
just
do
add
it?
what you just said.
Okay, I'll just do it.
Chris has.
They're
something
on
to
the best
add.
words.
Wait a minute.
Are we addressing, I don't know if we have yet, like landlords like just purposely warehousing units
Warehousing,
for? Yeah, like, is that something that
we can
we're
definitely add that.
addressing in here, like, or just incentives for landlords to not
I know sometimes
warehouse
some,
vacant units?
there's precedents where they tax units that are vacant.
Yeah.
There's an organization of landlords who are a group, I don't recall the name off the top of my head, where these units are not up to code. And to bring them up to code, they don't have enough revenue to bring them up to code. And a lot of them are small building owners. These are not large buildings. That small building owners have difficulty because they don't have the economy of scale. I'm not saying it's good or bad, I'm just saying that it's there.
Yeah.
Isn't there like a program that offers like 25,000 and they maybe upped it to 50,000 to be like, okay, like it's not gonna be $100,000 kitchen renovation, but like it'll get you to code or like it'll get you some of the way there. Like it's not gonna be like,
But you need to get all the way there.
well, but that the private funding, like that's just the public money. Like ostensibly you have some profit from whatever to like meet them halfway.
I don't know what the issue is. I just know that there's a lot of.
But if that is the issue, I just wonder why those landlords aren't then taking advantage of that in our district specifically.
What I heard for that specific thing is that landlords don't want to wait for the reimbursement from the city and the law change while they're doing the renovation, and then they don't get the reimbursement at all at the end. So
Yeah,
they
well,
just-
maybe there's a way to change that.
So a couple of publications did some pretty extensive research on this, like 2 years ago. They're like Curb came out with stuff, Post came out with stuff about like just the barriers for like and why landlord. I mean, a lot of landlords were obviously warehousing for like to put political pressure on, but like it's easing that burden of when apartments are turned over of like how much they have to renovate was like their main sticking point. And I don't know if that's something that we can work in here. Maybe the burden is too high there if they are feeling like they have to warehouse significant quantities of like their units, of their portfolios. There's gotta be some kind of meet in the middle to incentivize them to like these are just fine units that are sitting empty that once they're flipped over, all of a sudden they have to, do some arbitrarily determined amount of renovations. I don't know what that level is. Maybe that's something that we explore.
So how do we want, so under preservation, maybe we can insert this do we wanna, how do you wanna phrase it? Do we wanna incentivize or decentivize? Or a combination of the both?
It's probably a combination of both, like, in the near term, you wanna decentivize, but long term, you wanna incentivize like these
Yeah.
landlords to not go through these cycles where like they're just holding hostage vacant apartments, which landlords are very much are doing, have been doing.
So I feel like Euron is better at typing, and.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think,
Yeah,
we could get a little more specific, why don't we move on?
Okay. think about it.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
So
I'm familiar with quite a number of warehouse buildings around the city, but I don't know of one in our district. Can we identify them? Do we know of them? Any warehouse building? I don't know of one.
any warehouse buildings in our district or apartments that are off market. You have apartments that were vacant,
Mhm.
rentals that were vacant.
Right.
Are they vacant but available for rent, or are they off the rental market and not available for someone to rent? That's the
There are
question.
other methods though for warehousing, sometimes you just price it so high that it's like.
Right.
But
You know,
generally,
have they not been lived in for?
That's it, yeah.
I don't.
There are properties that have been on the market for a certain amount of time and then no one's rented it, but they've
It's
never
actually-
dropped it.
it's
House
actually.
for sale in
Or is-
So
Massachusetts.
then one of the things we need to do is we
6.5
need to
for 5
look
years.
at these vacant
So,
rentals and find out more about them, right? We don't know enough about them yet. We know they're
Yeah.
vacant rentals.
Have they
Why are
dropped-
they vacant?
Have they dropped their prices? What's the turnover? That's a great point.
Okay, so
Warehouse buildings are generally buildings that are being held off the market. The best example of Manhattan is 57th and 8th. It's been decades of sitting there empty. They're waiting for whatever reason, right? That's generally fun. Met Council on Housing may be able to help with this, but I don't know of a single building in our district that is a warehouse building.
well, 50,
But
50, would you say it was?
it's 57th and.
Eighth, but it's on the other side of eight, it's on the west side, so it's outside, it's in 4.
Yes, 5 decades, right? But I think one of the things that we could ask is underutilized properties, particularly we've got a lot of parking lots. They're corners, they're.
Parking garages or
No,
lots?
just lots surrounded by, with a 50 or 60-story building on either side. They're fairly small lots. So, yeah, so they're difficult. And then we also have a lot of properties that have been demolished and are sitting empty for many years now. So I think that's,
Well, I guess the Avenir plot is going to be empty. Right?
as will the old, Penn Hotel site. So, but there's a lot of
Penn
that. And I
Hotel
think that's an interesting concern for us. It's buildings that have been demolished, came down rapidly with one plan or another and a city, with
Pickleball
nothing
courts.
happening. Right.
But it's
They don't
open
even have that.
space.
It's not even that now, actually.
Huh? Yeah, should we move on?
Sorry, the warehousing is a really good point. We're gonna work on language for that. And then,
Overpriced and sitting around.
But also, I don't see specifically the underutilized, property.
I mean,
I think it's like hard to determine if they're privately owned, like, I don't know what. Yeah, if they're privately owned, it's sort of a very divided road.
Maybe the vacancy tax can get at making them more utilized.
Okay.
parking lots.
Parking lots and undeveloped properties sitting empty for year after year.
We need someone probably to identify these, right?
Right,
Yeah.
you don't know either the where, but
So
like
is
we
this
can move, I'm
something that-
putting this in as like a sort of a high level comment, but you would need more to that.
Okay, areas to be excluded for residential use or higher FARs, and Mike, you're saying around Times Square because of the tourism, the lights and noise. And then these other areas around parks, open space.
Yeah, because like with the sign, they want brighter lights, bigger signs. It's made for tourists, not made for residents to be living right on Times Square. And then we have few parks and we don't need them to be always in shadows. So there should be some type of what's the word? Ban of tall buildings around the park.
Speaking of light levels on signage, the board office is getting a lot of complaints from residents that live around Times Square, not on the square. And there's a lot of light that is, escaping, I guess I would say, into the side streets. And even with blackout shades, they can't black it out. And DOT evidently has no way to measure the light levels so that they could say the light levels are too high. You've got to lower it down. In other words, like we have sound requirements, and so sound requirements, there are limits, but there's no limits on lighting from signage.
The Department of Environmental Protection doesn't have anything on that for like endocrine disrupting light levels.
DEP
can
does
cause,
water
like,
supply
breast
and
cancer.
wastewater treatment. That's
Yeah.
mostly what they do.
They're not doing anything, just like light pollution.
They do.
Yeah,
They do, yes, they do
But
sound.
I don't think they do light.
Ice
level.
cream truck complaints go to them,
As far as,
I don't know, like,
but wouldn't it fall under
so, but
that
I don't know if that,
hypothetically?
I'm just answering for what you have, but I don't know if that comes in here, but
Right.
we are gonna bring in housing. We do have to be concerned about that.
Yeah.
And DOT has no way to measure it.
okay. There are any comments to this section before we move on?
The only other thing you could add to supply is this discussion that we had about like unit type, but I don't know what we would say, like. You know, we believe we want more different unit types, and. I mean, you could say like. Calculate FAR, like when you're calculating. Floor area, if you have a 3-bed plus, it's calculated under 1.
Yeah, or
Like-
like incentivize. lower
Right, it's like,
units.
that would be one way to incentivize it, it's like your floor area, it's like if you have 10,000 feet of 3-bedroom, that actually counts as 5,000. Something like that, so like incentives for larger units,
Do you think it should go into this section?
well, it's supply, isn't it?
Oh, I'm
That's-
talking about 1G.
Oh, sorry, I'm talking about the whole
Okay.
one, all of one, as the supply section somewhere in there. Because we
Definitely,
don't talk about unit type at all.
definitely, where do you recommend?
Why don't you move on, and then I'll find a spot, and then I can see.
Yeah, I'd like to suggest a 1H is to further explore underutilized properties.
I've added underutilized in 1F. So I added disincentivize landlord from warehousing and incentivize development on privately owned and underutilized properties.
Yeah, so, but specifically parking lots, we have a lot of those. We have, vacant lots that are sometimes used for flea markets. And of course, we have, properties that are demolished and where nothing's happened.
Yep.
I think we have to be very specific, right? There's a lot of that.
So I'll put parking lots, demolished properties and vacant lots.
So next section,
Do we wanna finish this and then go to any of the people like Melissa Stewart
Yeah.
or?
we're at the end.
Okay, so let's finish that.
But anything else from, at least you supply anything else from Isabel's presentation? Is that
Can I just say one thing on 1G? The only thing I agree with much of this, the only thing I sort of would like to change, if anybody agrees, is the Times Square piece. I'd rather not restrict heights or like development around Times Square. I think if people choose to live there, it's sort of their prerogative. I agree that it could create some conflicts, but I'd rather not limit development around Times Square. But I'm open to,
Since we already
people's
have some
thoughts.
development from Times Square, 5 Times Square.
Yeah, I mean, we already have very tall buildings on the south side of Union Square and south side of Madison Square, that they already exist.
1515 could be converted into housing.
No, yeah, I mean, I'm just reacting to the rest of it.
No, it says it's saying that with 18 FAR or something. be
Oh, I see, yeah.
Around Times
Sort
Square.
of the perfect place for it. Yeah, if there's anywhere in the city, it's
Would agree
sort
that
of the spot.
there isn't a whole lot of plant life in Times Square that would be impacted. In a similar way,
Like sun.
As
sunlight
like-
plants.
yeah, like as far as like growth, like because there are plants in Union Square that don't
Plants-
grow great because of the south development.
But
sort of
but
look at
the
it.
light in Times Square is probably very good for plants.
Can I make a, so
Yeah.
an effort to
They're
sort of.
natural grow lights.
I don't think
I
there's many
would,
plants in Times Square.
Let me make a suggestion.
Don't
which
threaten me
is-
with a good time.
So holistically, what DCP is looking for is suggestions for what to do. And we have that in section 1 here, and in many ways in section 4, that's like, here's the ways to get supply. And then sections 2 and 3 and section 1G are the sort of watchouts. The things to like, if you are gonna do all of those things, here are the things you should watch out for. So I think if we rearrange it and put that paragraph there of like, great, here's all the things we want you to do. Everything now below this, which is your section 2, your section 3, and then what we're talking about, section 1G. These are things you need to consider that may not be. And then if you have that kind of hedging language, it's like more just like, think about whether you really want to do this way, you know, but really what DCP is asking us is for 1 and 4, but it's now sections 1 and 4. And the other things are things we really want them to know, but are like, if you're gonna do it, here's what you should watch out for. And I do think it's fair to say, what I'm offering is, it's fair to say, be careful about Times, be thoughtful about Times Square.
Yeah.
Unless you think that's not good enough, I'm not trying to like.
No, no,
I mean, we could change the wording a little bit, so it's not exclude.
Yeah,
Development.
there could be like not exclude, yeah, that would be.
Yes,
that would
I
be-
think that's what I'm offering, it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, like a tentative.
be thoughtful about Times Square, sounds like a very reasonable thing to say,
Yeah.
and like, let's not be so prescriptive of what that would look like.
Yeah.
Do you want to choose that?
Yes, but I think, can I rearrange it like I just said,
Yeah.
put 1 and 4 together?
Yeah.
And then 1G, 2 and 3 together after some intermediate language of like. You see what I mean?
I can see the reordering, but are you gonna create different categories?
No, just reorder it.
Disorder.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is the one that we're gonna push down about sustainability and resiliency. But I do think it's important to include, to let them know the buildings that we're building that's gonna last 100 to 200 years should be sustainable to not impact the climate. So we actually have housing in 100 years. So this is very holistic, looking at every section in sustainability that could be updated. So local law 97 focuses on carbon emissions, but we're looking at embodied carbon and the actual materials that are used to build buildings, and we're suggesting that if demolition happens, let's reuse the material somehow, recycle it. And there's a precedent, Finland is way ahead in doing that. Tristan, did he leave?
He did.
He's pushing for modular manufacturing, again, trying to minimize waste and speed up production. Passive design strategies, the city is advancing the building code to be a level passive house.
That's been going on.
Which is gonna be just like you put a insulated envelope to minimize heat loss. But then other ways to minimize use of air conditioning, which creates that carbon emissions, is maximizing natural ventilation, urban greening, creating microclimates, etc. So some items related to that.
Lush, are we mentioning Lush in there too?
Yeah, so Lush is the last bullet point of that section. And then renewable energy, local law 92, 94 focuses on solar,
Roofs.
and green roofs, but geothermal heating, district heating that other cities are doing, asking the city to look at that. I'm not sure it's applicable for CB5, but it's citywide. And it's smart technology to monitor energy usage. And then public space. This is what we've been talking about with MS and MS, but like these are kind of a summary of your your proposals. So actually the first one, remember ZR 1512 for Waldorf Astoria and the Flatiron came to us and they're not providing any green roof access because of the mechanical space. But the idea is that new construction, we want to incentivize the roof access, open space access, just because our parks are already and has so much demand. So how can we create something where a lush roadway? Well, buildings, but how do buildings contribute to open space in addition to the spaces around the buildings? Plants everywhere. But then,
So just moving on to, is this charter reform stuff, the next thing, or is this?
yes, but let me finish 3B, that's. So residential that's not providing open space, I think there's a suggestion that they should make commitments to open space funds or something like that.
Instead of us having to ask them, that'd be written into the.
Yeah. On the open space question, this has come up before, and I know we've had discussions about the centralness of open space, other members, I know Ankur has mentioned that, you know, but there's also Central Park right there. As a future thing to, I think a good future area of research for us would be the relationship and the proportion of density to open space in our district, and actually whether it is it out of line compared to other parts of the city? Is it, I mean, if it is.
It's in the MSMX EIS,
it's
we're
point
way lower.
And
But that was just for that area, right?
That was for
that's just a residence, it's not just it's not a visitor.
Sorry, what did you say?
It was for that area, yeah.
It was just for those areas,
Thank you.
right? So I'm saying
But I
more
can-
broadly, but I know that that was.
New
that-
Yorkers for Park has a
Did you?
study
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
75,
Oh, great.
and it's.
It's not
Okay,
good.
so we don't need to research that apparently, but I would love to talk about that at another meeting. Because
It's in the introduction of mine.
But that is one thing that I said to the board office about open space. How can we study the existing open space and how can we look at propose more open
Yeah.
space?
I just want to understand a little more the context of it and what is unusual, what is not unusual, like all of that. Anyway, sorry.
But New Yorkers for Parks has open space ratios for every district, and you can see how we compare to other districts. Okay,
It doesn't include.
ULIP reform suggestions.
And we're gonna go over that at as our last item in addition to.
Right, not these, but.
Not
Yeah.
these, yeah, the actual,
Okay, so.
and that should go fast.
So I put in parentheses that these are for individual sites with affordable housing versus citywide rezonings. Sorry,
Oh, sorry, I just deleted something in it. And it moved, so scroll up.
okay.
There we go.
So, you know, I looked at one point, at the CB8, did a very specific recommendation of like very specific sites and very specific zoning changes. And, we haven't quite gotten there, but maybe that is something that a fellow could take the next look at, like, because the data's out there.
So what did you see?
I mean, they literally were like, you know, there's a block of C-zone stuff on 94th Street. That should be, you know, an R12 or whatever it was, R10 equivalent. And they literally went site by site, block by block, and had a list of, you know, very specific changes.
Like they proposed specific FARs.
Yeah. Yeah,
I wonder how they.
I think
determined
they
that.
started earlier. They had more time to go through this. I think the process started, I want to say in like February of this year. But yeah, then their recommendations were very specific. So, I mean, the only thing I can think of is if somebody has the time to actually focus on what we have here and then look at the, you know, zoning maps online and see whether there are specific opportunities, you know, that we would recommend. And you can go into the Manhattan, what's it called, plan system and recommend, you can look through the zoning map, you can click on specific sites and recommend upzonings or some other change to specific sites. So in a couple of cases, I did that for stuff that was like two that I picked up, I recommended on the site to change these. And then other M zoned areas that are outside of our district, I recommend those as well, so maybe we can go through and do that.
What's interesting is there seems to be more information that each of us knows something about, but we may not have collected it together. So if you could send those data sets or whatever the reports are to Isabel, she can maybe aggregate them in some way and get back to us on all the things that came in, right? I mean, I think that's important.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
the stuff I saw was not our district, it was somebody else's.
But it
district.
seems for our
Yeah.
district, but there's, for example, this parks study about density and
Oh, yeah.
open space.
Some of it's just the like design guidelines and then whether it includes parkland or some of the privately owned public spaces and then how it's calculated and whether or not it's like for the district specifically.
So the question is, how does it fit in with what the information?
With then,
put together?
yeah, and then adding.
Sewell.
For
Right
cost
on,
enforcement.
Nomad Partnership has a map, block by block, lot by lot of the likely development of specific properties. We could get that, Isabel, directly from James Netham, the president, or from Joe Rose. I don't think it's on our website.
Okay, I'm gonna finish this really quick. We're asking for pre-certification comments, which doesn't exist right now.
And
Post-certification,
that's something the board has already asked for in our first CRC letter and said we want recertification constitution.
okay, no change to post-certification for community boards. For borough presence review, we're going from 30 to 20 days.
The shortness for some,
Yeah, I guess I'm like, these are,
Kind of been superseded by what's actually being proposed, right?
Not really, because that's just for affordable housing. So this, what we're saying, there's a
Oh, I
more
got you.
broad claim. It's a broader claim.
this is for affordable housing, for
It would
individual sites with
only be-
affordable housing.
Oh, okay, so then it is interesting.
but wouldn't it be for housing with MIH?
Which is, yeah,
I mean,
individual sites with affordable housing.
if they give us MIH for everything. Cause right now MIH is only for the rezoned area.
Anything that goes through ULURP has to be MIH. When you go through ULURP, it triggers MIH. From my understanding. Okay, but I guess the 30 days to 20 days. It's like, it feels a little arbitrary because it's like 1 month, they have a month, but then you're saying. 20 days, I guess I'm not sure.
3 weeks.
3 weeks versus 4 weeks.
What if we just had reduced the borough president's review term? And we don't put a time on.
And they, by how much?
Yeah, but I
No,
think-
but they'll explore that. I mean,
I don't know
It's
about.
going on the ballot.
No, it's
but
not on
that
that.
part is not quite going on the ballot.
Okay.
The ballot actually does not reduce. I mean,
Okay,
it
okay.
combines, but it doesn't reduce.
I mean, I do think the borough president's review period is important, so making it. Saying it without any days, what, I don't know what that underlie, what that's saying. But we can leave this, I guess I was just like concerned about 30 days is already really short. And then the next one. Reducing city planning commission's review from 60 to 30 days. Usually they have a public hearing for the first month, and then the second month they talk and discuss the application, so. I don't know how that will work. Procedurally, if you were to do it from 2 months to 1 month, how does that public hearing? Cause then they would have to decide right after they hear the public comments.
Fair, I don't know if that's for us to solve. I will say the underlying logic suggestions, I don't know if they come from. Is I like, maybe we can like take it up a level and just say. Everyone except the community boards has paid land use staff. They should be able to do things faster. Look there for an opportunity. Like, that's overall what these are saying, and I think as like a high level comment, it's a fair one. Like the borough president has a land use staff, TCB obviously, like the city council has a land use
Yeah,
staff.
no, I understand that, it's the part where the public gets to comment, that I'm like, how do you?
But I'm saying maybe we don't have to get into those details and just make, I don't know, who are these suggestions from? So would you be comfortable if it was brought up to a higher level and it was just the borough president, city council, and DCP all have professional land use staffs who should be able to do this faster. Let's try to find.
I'm not wedded to these numbers, I'm just saying there's an
Right.
example
I
of
think it's a
how.
fair point.
Yeah.
I think it's a total fair point. And I think as an underlying point, that makes sense, whether it's 60 or
Yeah,
30,
yeah.
that may
No.
not make sense.
I'm hearing you, but the thing is, part of ULURP is the public opportunity to comment.
Totally.
So even though they have land use staff, they have to, maybe the extra time is for.
Maybe, so let's say that, say without, you may be able to find time savings there without reducing public input.
Okay.
But how effective has that public input been with the city planning commission? Normally, they just pass what DCP approves. I mean, propose.
It's given, it's just
Gotten
giving the
better
public
for
an
us.
opportunity to say something. Are you saying
What do you
that?
mean for? the
Well, for
CPC
MSM, they listen to us.
CPC changed it? I thought it was the city council that changed.
Okay.
But at least we got to say something then. But yeah, I think what you're saying,
Right.
what you're proposing is fine. If we wanna make this a little bit more general
Right.
and.
The only thing is we have to make sure that we have time to have the public hearing.
We're not touching on
And
it.
give it, and they have to have time to review it too.
Right, so
Because we're almost up against.
so then
the
I say,
deadline.
as long as it preserves public comment and preserves the ability to review. We're comment, I think that's enough. And then we don't have to sort of figure out all these details necessarily ourselves. 'Cause I think, again, the point that these people have staffs, we don't, it's like, we do have staff, excuse me, but like a devoted land use staff, I think is actually up there.
So does that make sense to keep its first two bullets and then the third bullet would just encompass the
Yes,
rest of the.
that's what I'm
ULURP
saying.
process?
And I can rewrite that. If might help. And then if you just scroll to this paragraph here, Joey, so while you were talking, I added this, so I moved your sections 1G, 2, and 3 below this, and this is what I added, I'll read it out loud to see, just make sure the board's comfortable with it. CB5 recommends exploring the above suggestions as ways to achieve the stated goals of the Manhattan Plan. It's essential that we not think about adding residential density in a vacuum, but consider it in context. So here are essential considerations to keep in mind as we seek to create a holistically livable neighborhoods.
Do you wanna say something about?
Oh, okay, right. As we see to a holistically livable and climate friendly,
Resilient.
climate friendly and resilient neighborhoods.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I think that's it for the Manhattan Plan. Any other items? So we would vote for this?
But ask any, public.
Yeah.
Questions from the public? Questions or comments from the public?
Questions or comments from the public?
Is there a problem?
Yeah. There are 3. And Melissa, who is a board member. Melissa, anything? Charles, Dylan? Raise your hands.
Dylan's gonna comment.
Melissa has,
Hi, nothing from me, thanks.
okay. Charles or Dylan, anything? Seeing no hands raised, let's go back and finish this up and vote on it then.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, Seth,
Yes.
Ahmed, yes, Ankur left. Nancy,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Tristan left, Libby,
Yes.
you're on,
Yes.
David,
Yep.
Alan,
Yes.
Zoll,
Yes.
and Chris.
Yes.
Is this gonna be a reso?
Yes.
On the letter.
This is to go with the first reso from before the summer.
Right.
Was that a letter?
Yes,
Reso.
Reso.
Okay,
there was a reso here.
So it's the vote, Jewel?
10. 10-0.
The final. Are we done with this?
Yes.
So the final item of business is you're on talking about the city charter revision referendum.
We had a robust conversation last time about the charter commission revisions. And I think we landed to a place of consensus, not unanimity, but consensus. And we paused that item or tabled that item, given our questions about what was appropriate for a community board to do and what was the precedent for a community board. So after some consultations with Marisa and Brad and others and looking at precedent, a revised resolution that I will just share the resolve clauses in which
It was sent to everyone as well.
it was, I just wanna, I'm going to
Chance to see it.
I'm gonna read the resolve clauses. So it basically lays out the three, which I'm not gonna rehash here, the three charter revision questions that are gonna be on the ballot. And that relating to ULURP, and then this is what the resolve clauses would read that we all felt comfortable are appropriate for a community board to say, should we want to say it. Resolve that we believe these charter revisions would achieve their intended goal of incentivizing and encouraging more affordable housing in every community district while still preserving community input and the voice of community boards. And be it further resolved that we urge elected officials, relevant city agencies, and future charter revision commissions to think about city planning more broadly and holistically and consider neighborhood-wide, borough-wide, and citywide actions so more development can happen as of right, which is the speediest process available, and we can package additional housing with more of the necessary amenities, transit infrastructure, parks, schools, et cetera, that are central to a livable city. So the resolution is saying, as experts in ULURP, as we are, this is what we believe the outcome of the charter revision will be. And that's it. It's not a yes, it's not a no, it's not a recommendation. It is it is our assessment of if should these pass, what these changes would do.
And this will be on our website.
Yeah, like all our resolutions.
So, I think that sounds good, but there was one that I don't think I fully understand, one item where it wasn't just for affordable sites, it was like the override.
No, that has to have affordable housing as part of it. It's not for all ULURPs. It's called in fact, it's called the Affordable Housing Review Commission or something.
Yeah, but was there one item where there was some kind of the mayor could override something that didn't have to do with?
No, so, and the mayor can't do it. So a 3-person commission, which is the mayor or their representative, the speaker or their representative, or president of their representative, can override a city council no, or can revert any changes the city council made back to what CPC approved. But it can only be, affordable housing it has to be affordable housing project or application, or like it's not, and it has to be in a single borough. It did come up in our conversation of like how big a set of sites, and we don't know. And I don't know that that's even been determined. I think that'll be something that'll have to get fought out.
Explain to us the study that was done, that all the housing that was unable to move forward
Because of member deference. I talked about this at
Did the-
committee,
okay.
and it was in the past 3 years, I forget what the numbers were, it was like 1,000 affordable units and certain thousands of market rate units. The CRC did this study, those are the projects that weren't able to move forward because of the practice of member deference, which again, we talked about since.
So the idea is to post this as our assessment rather than a reso.
Not as anything. I mean, it will be posted as, it's written as a resolution, it is a resolution, it'll go
Well, if you're
where.
posting something, it's something.
Well, Marisa.
No, all of our resolutions go into our database and our
Right.
website.
Is this a resolution?
It's an
Yeah.
table, yeah, no,
Yeah.
resolution.
It would go to the board. It's not gonna have like a header or like direct people to it. It will be where all of our resolutions sit.
This has all been vetted and Marisa knows what to do with it. We have anything? Want to ask the public?
Yeah, either,
Anyone from the public want to comment on this? Raise your hand, please. We don't see any. Okay, thank you. Back to the group.
I'll make a motion to vote on the
I'll
for this
second it.
resolution.
Okay, Beth,
Yes.
I'm a yes, Nancy,
Yes.
Mike,
No.
Libby,
I feel weird about it still, but. Yes.
okay, you're on,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Joel,
I'm still thinking this through, so I'm gonna abstain.
Chris.
Yes.
It's an abstention, thank you.
But it's, no, it's kind of just.
No, it's gonna say abstain.
8-1-1.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Do we need a motion?
What?
Do it.
No, we
We
did
already
new
asked you,
business
Vincent.
already.
You
You
can
just
just
say,
adjourn.
get out of here. Adjourn.
Thank you.